Hello and welcome back to a new episode of Digital Insight with intelliDivide. In this episode, we are looking at new features such as automatic calculation of laminates, creating and working with material depending parameters, and the new features of calculating the total cost of a cutting order. Let's go! We want to produce this kind of cabinet. But now, unfortunately, we don't have the material for the doors in our workshop. That means we have to create this material by ourselves. So we want to laminate these two doors. And therefore, I'm going to switch now to intelliDivide. Here in intelliDivide, I already imported the parts list for this job. And now I want to create for these two doors laminating parts, because I want to add the laminates. So for this I have an example here for you. So for instance, when you have a carrier board, like here the chipboard, and then you want to place a laminate on the top and laminate on the bottom, of course in this direction. But you also can, of course, use wooden laminates, like this example. You can also use other kind of carrier boards. And when we are doing this now, we also can define the grain direction of the laminates. Some customers, they want to put them in the crosswise direction on the carrier board. And all these settings you will find now in intelliDivide. To calculate the laminates, you have to do one setting first. You have to go to the optimization parameters. And here you will find a new tab called laminates. And here you can activate if you want to add the laminates or not. So we want to add them to the cutting list, and you can also define the offset dimension of the laminates. So I want to make it bigger, of course, like the finished length, so 10 millimeters on each side. And also the carrier board should be a bit larger than the finished part, because we have to recut after laminating, we have to recut the board to the finished dimension. Okay, so these are the settings you can do in intelliDivide. And now we are going to assign the laminate material to the first door. Therefore, we just click in, and then we can select the material. Like for the board material, we also select here the laminate, and I copy the same to the bottom side. And of course, also for the second door, we are using the same material. And now finally, I also change now the material for the carrier board. So because here we want to use the chipboard, a raw chipboard. And I'm searching for that, and I'm selecting this raw board, 19 millimeters. Okay, now when we have a look now in the cutting list that was created automatically, we will find once again the two doors, door left and door right. But when we have a closer look in the door, we see that the door is split now into three different materials. So we have the carrier board, the chipboard, and we have the two laminates. And also in the dimension, you see the first line, you see the finished dimension, but you also see the raw dimension for the laminates. Of course, it's bigger, and even for the carrier board, for the chipboard, also this dimension was added automatically. So before we start now the optimization, I want to show you the next new feature, the material depending parameter. Maybe you remember that we have different parameters in the optimization settings, where we can define, for example, the dimension of offcuts. We can define the trim cut dimension. So, and the default setting is 15 millimeters. So that means when you start cutting, we are cutting always at least 50 millimeters at the edge of each board to achieve a clear and correct cutting edge. But for our laminating material, we don't need this trim cut, because you have seen that we added already an offset to this material. You also can do settings for the tension trims, and of course also for the book height. So these are the settings for the parameters you can set in intelliDivide. But these settings are used in general for all your cutting jobs you are doing. And if you want to do this separately for each material, we have to set these material depending parameters in the Material Manager app. And therefore, I'm switching now to the Material Manager. And in the left menu, you find a new option called Optimization. And here you find once again all these settings you know from intelliDivide. So for the off cuts, for the trim cuts, also for the tension trims and book heights. And in this setting here, you can define now a specific material group. So what you see here is in the first line, you find all the materials that are defined in your Material Manager app, and they are using all the same setting for the trim cuts, in our case 15 millimeters. So this is a setting from intelliDivide. But now we want to do something special for the laminating material, and therefore I created here a group. So we can filter here now and we can search for special material. I create a group for laminates. Material Manager found 2 different materials. And for this material, I set another value for the trim cut. So I set here 0 millimeters. I don't want to have any trim cut for laminates. So this is how you have to set up the material depending parameters. And then when this is done, you can start the optimization. And intelliDivide will now calculate all the materials. Of course, they will be splitted to the raw material, to the chipboard, and also to the laminates. Each material will get its own cutting plan. So we see also that we have different solutions on the left side. Yeah, maybe have a look at this one. And when we click now on a cutting plan, you can see here we have all around this trim cuts, because this is our standard material, the sunny whiteboard. But for the laminates, we also get an own cutting plan, and we have a look on this cutting plan, see that there's no trim cuts inside. So this is how intelliDivide is using the material depending parameters. Coming to the next feature, the total costs. So we are calculating for each job the total costs, and in the past they were referred only on the material costs. So remember that you can define the cost for each board, and then intelliDivide can calculate the usage of the board, and then of course the costs for the boards. But now, and that's new, you also can add the production costs to this job. And the production costs are referring to the hourly machine rate, and this machine rate you can define by yourself in intelliDivide. So when you click on the machine here and you select your machine, you can go to the settings, and in the settings there's a new parameter. It's called costs, production costs, and here you can define your own individual production costs per hour for your machine. And if this value is set, then you will get in the result, in the overview of intelliDivide, let's have a look once again to our example, you will get these calculated costs. And if you show on the comparison of all the alternative solutions, then you will see much more details of the costs. So we are calculating the costs for the material, of course, for the production, but also we are breaking the costs down to the production cost for each single part. And so it's much more easier for you to choose the correct solution for you, the most efficient solution for your production. Yeah, that's it for now. These are the new features from our optimization software, intelliDivide. All other episodes you will find on our YouTube channel from HOMAG. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you soon.